Welcome back to another edition of Kelly and Company. And on today's show, film critic Michael McNeely has us covered with 2 British series with deaf representation. And host of Para Sport Nation, Alex Smyth, joins us. All you need to know about a particular sport today in para world. Para fencing. We'll get into that in a while on the show when he joins us. Here we go, folks. On guard!
This is Kelly and Company.
As we swing into our Tuesday show, reminding you that Parasport Nation will come up a little later on the show. Kelly MacDonald here. You can follow me on Twitter at AMI Kelly Mac. Nazreen Abdul-Majid joining me on the show. Welcome. Nice to have you back, even though yesterday I had to say to myself, hey, Kelly, welcome back after being away last week.
Yeah, you were solo yesterday. I'm sorry you were talking to yourself for a full hour.
Wow. Well, I had
okay.
I had contributors on, so they at least indulged me and brought great content and actually answered me back instead of just saying, "What's this guy saying? What's this guy doing?" Like, it's always interesting because when we host the show on our own, you want to make sure you have enough stuff. And I didn't put an article or anything like I have here today for us to talk a little bit about off the top aside. Maybe that would have been the smart thing to do, but it's the faith you have with the contributors, right? You get to know the people, Julia, Danielle, Michael, they're going to step up and be a part of the conversations. Now, sometimes we throw them off when we looped them into the conversation, and maybe we forgot to tell them before when we were getting ready or haven't had a chance, and all of a sudden we're coming to them and, yeah. I think they've learned, though, to listen, because you never know when that kind of thing by a miserable host, good heavens, miserable host.
And at the end of the day, and they understand by now, right? And they do come through, and we appreciate our contributors so much right now. No, they do come through with us, when we're short at a time or we need some space to fill in. Like it's really wonderful to have them and depend on them.
And it gives a nice flow. Right, for us to kind of have them weigh in on what we're talking about. And sometimes you get those stories from that just make you say, wow, where'd they come out with that? That's really, really amazing. We also, Nazreen, on the show mentioned that the show is coming to an end on June 27th. So we do want to hear from people, their thoughts and things like that they might want to share. And we will be talking to different people as well, of course, as our contributors make their last appearances throughout the month on the program. We'll get into some of those. Also, Niz, are you a brisk walker? Whether you're walking somewhere or if you go out on a stroll, would you say you saunter? Would you say you keep up a good pace?
I feel like this really depends, and I'm gonna throw a Twitter poll out today about this because I'm really wondering about everybody's pace. But it really depends. When I'm on the treadmill, I'm a brisk walker. I really walk faster than usual because I'm holding on to the treadmill. But when I'm on outdoor ground, I'm a slow walker, I think. So
I used to be fast.
I can't jog for my life. So that's to put it. I
used to be a fast walker. I was that person that when I was in Toronto and had to run down the subway stairs, I could never walk down them. I always just flew down them. But that's when I had more vision and trusted it more. I wouldn't trust it now. And then my vision started to get worse. I remember running into someone and almost taking them right out. And I couldn't see them at all. They were totally in a blind spot in my eyes with my eye condition. And oh my God, I've got to stop doing that. So I started to walk slower and slower, and as the visions got where I walk slower and slower.
Yeah, because you have to be aware, be careful.
Yeah.
There's cracks in the pavement. There's the amount of times I tripped over the weekend on flat ground is insane, just because of the cracks on the sidewalk. So it happens. So that's why we walk slower. But on the treadmill, when you're holding on, when you know where you're walking, what you're walking on, it's more controllable. You're more in control. So,
you don't have to think about it, whether you have to look for cracks. And some people do that who can see fully. They do it just naturally. But this study, brisk walking, linked to lower risk of heart rhythm problems, this study finds, okay? This came out a little while ago. this study of over 420,000 Britons say that it's probably better to go at a walking pace of over 3 miles an hour. It's probably better, okay, to help you out here. So walking, it can also help take care of a wide risk of heart-related problems if you walk at a faster pace. This is a peer-reviewed case published in DMJ Heart, analyzed data from that 400 plus thousand that I was mentioning, and they got these folks from the UK Biobank, who had provided data on their walking speeds. People gave 8,100 they got 81,000. I'm sorry, I was looking at my numbers saying, okay, here's a ton of numbers. 81,956 gave more detail about the different walking paces they went at. According to the study, a slow pace was defined at less than 3 miles per hour, a steady average pace at 3 or 4 miles per hour, and a brisk pace over 4 miles per hour, and 6.5% had the slower walking pace of walking. 53 had an average, and 41% were the above average speed. Okay, so tracking these people over a course of 13 years is what they did. 9% of the people developed some form of heart rhythm abnormality after accounting for background demographic and lifestyle factors. An average of brisk walking pace was associated with respectively a 35 to 43% lower risk of getting one of these arrhythmias or heart conditions of some kind compared with the slow walking pace. The higher walking speeds were also associated with lower risk of afibrillation and other cardiac arrhythmias. So Niz, I mean, I know they had to do a study like this. I mean, I've always thought, hey, it's always healthier. But when you talk about arrhythmias, and I guess the strength of the heart as people get older, and the electrical in your body, as this thing goes on to discuss, can make those changes to where you might start getting in the lower or upper portions of your heart. It really can affect you in that capacity. I would have never thought about that, except, hey, I want my cardiovascular, I want my breathing and stuff like that if I'm walking. This also has to take into account circumstances for people. Cultures, I would think, come into play because of the different types of food people may consume. We obviously know that the secondary conditions, high blood pressure, diabetes, and things like that, your sugar, glucose, also reflect in this, not just to mention.
There's so many factors.
Yeah, and some they didn't really get into. They didn't do enough with cultures, and I think that's a very, very big thing if you're going to look at that. I think it's important because we all say certain not so much cultures, but some of the ethnic backgrounds that we have may lead us to be more likely for diabetes or higher blood pressure. There's so many of these different factors, and we know in families things tend to carry on. Men in this survey generally walked at the faster walking rate, and for some reason with these people in the study lived in less deprived areas and healthier lifestyles. What do you think the reason of that would be?
The lifestyles, the difference. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it got worse. The lifestyle that we're living right now, we're always on our phones, and a lot of us
but men are still coming out in this study ahead in the sense of tending to walk faster, tending to be that. I wonder if
they have
if
longer
these
legs.
men who maybe, but I also think men are under the pressure, right? Men are supposed to be, hey man, I gotta keep myself in some kind of shape. I gotta at least be able to walk, walk at a good pace and seem strong and healthy.
I totally get that. A lot of people feel the same way. There's still pressure to this day. There's still pressure on men to be more active, more, hands-on and things like that. You have to be stronger and whatever. That's what people say, at least. But I do know when I'm walking with my husband, I'm chasing after him while he's walking very slow. It's so funny because I feel like I'm so much shorter, but I'm walking so fast compared to him, and he's just like, "Why are you walking so slow?" I'm running after you.
Yeah,
Um,
and he's walking, and as far as he's concerned, why do I have to walk so slow
he's
whenever we go out?
chilling. Yeah, he's chilling.
Oh
But
man,
that's our walk.
uh, but it
But
is
yeah,
interesting.
I do feel like you're right about the pressure. There's still in our society, I feel like there's so much pressure on men to be more active, more fit.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and as you get
you know,
older, you get reminded more, and it's almost like it's a solely a man problem. You gotta, when obviously it's
get
not.
a
Now
gym
the reason,
membership. Yeah,
yeah, well,
you
that's
have to
it.
get a
You have to have your
yeah.
gym. You have to be doing this and that. You have to be able to keep up. You can't be huffing and puffing at all, especially running upstairs. So the researchers noted this was observational study, which means no firm conclusions could be drawn whether really if the brisk walking really does lower any particular risk. It's also limited by the fact that people were self-reporting with this. So I think it's great to look into this, but it's the first time that they studied the pathway of can this, if you aren't walking at a fast enough pace and trying to do something for yourself, will it have that negative impact or keep you from having the positive outcomes that possibly a faster average walking pace can give when it comes to arrhythmias. And I think they do. I think they definitely needed Nisreen to look into this. So really great.
Yeah. I just wish, as you said, I wish they looked into a lot more factors to consider, like uh, food, for example.
Yes. Well, and
Um,
I think that would be coming because they reflected on certain health conditions to a point, but more so that average speed. And I think that's a great way to put it, because I think if we have an idea walking faster at a brisker pace when you go out for your stroll, your night stroll, your exercise, whatever you want to call it, that it does make some difference. And then there's some people who are going to say, "Oh, forget it. My family, it's in my family. It's nothing I can do can change it." And I understand people who have history of anything. Some people have the attitude, "Well, I can't change it. If this is the way we are, this
yeah,
is the way it's going to be." So I do
yeah.
understand that kind of quote negative viewpoint.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I have to tell you, like, it all depends on our culture. Like, of course, because even in the Arab culture, every dish comes with like rice and bread and a lot of carbs, and it becomes
Yes.
harder to
Yes.
diet and eat healthier. And you have to really work on, getting all the food groups in order. But it's harder than it seems. But I love the study. I love that they brought this to our attention because
Especially
now,
about arrhythmia, because I think people feel
yeah,
you're born with it, and then all of a sudden one day it manifests itself, instead of how much of it can occur as you get older and your body just changes and the
yeah.
electronics work differently. But that's a good point too, because they say, especially the people with diabetes, best thing to do, eat and then go for that
Mhm.
5, 10, 15-minute walk just to get the blood moving.
Awesome. Well,
Awesome.
thank you. Thank you, Kelly, for bringing this to our attention. We're moving to film reviews because we have film critic Michael McNeely joining us with his recent watches and opinions on those films and TV series. He checked out the pilots of new British deaf films he'd like us to hear about. Michael, which two films did you check out and what are your thoughts on each?
Well, first of all, I just want to mention that my British does walk fast. At least Woke
That's
Alien,
awesome.
who is in Code of Silence and Reunion, she can ride a bicycle fast. And then we also have Matthew Gurney. He's in Reunion and he walks so fast he looks like he's going to kill you. So I don't think they have any challenges with their health.
Yeah, that's amazing. Great. So which two films did you check out?
Two shows. So the first show is Code of Silence from ITV, which is the no, actually, Code of Silence is from the BBC. BritBox. Actually, you can find it. And ITV, I believe, was the company that produced these subtitles, so I'm very happy for them. Now, Code of Silence is a story about a young woman named Allison who is looking for meaningful work. She works as a server in a police station. I didn't know that police stations have cafeterias, which I didn't know. She works in the police station cafeteria, which I think would be an interesting story in its own. She's deaf, or I think maybe technically she may be hard of hearing in the series, but she's played by a deaf actor, and she is hired as a lip reader to help the police with a case. And it's very interesting how she gets involved because they don't necessarily know that she has the skills for investigation until she shows herself. And one of the most heartrending aspects of the show was that she told her mom, who is played by deaf actor Vivi Garfield, that she's tired of having to prove herself all the time. And I felt that. I felt that as a deaf person myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an important aspect of the show is that even though Alison is working with the police, they still doubt her abilities to contribute to the investigation.
It's almost like you feel that you always have to prove yourself in some way, right? Because or be second guessed always.
Yep.
Yes, I think so. I think one of the things too is that you're second guessed because you don't have this. You don't have the accommodations that you need to do well. So then you're blamed for not doing well when it's actually the environment that contributed to your inability to do well.
And even if you have them, you might do it differently, which is abnormal for what people second guess your process.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So one of the interesting things about this series is that Alison spends a lot of time looking through cameras and monitors to try and lip read what's happening. And so we get a sense of her being sort of an observer, a voyeur, someone who is stuck in and never really in the midst of the action. But then she does get into the midst of the action, so it's quite a contrast between being outside and inside.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I can move on to my second show, which is interesting that Rose Aileen Ellis is also in the show as well. As mentioned, she's a deaf actor, so it's very important that she's in two shows. Reunion, though, is Matthew Gurney's show. Matthew is a deaf actor too. He plays Daniel, who has escaped. No, so he hasn't escaped prison. That's a lot different than what I'm trying to say. He is released from prison because he served his sentence. So please don't lock him up. He actually served his time. For once, he served his time, and he is coming out of prison, and he wants to get revenge. So he's probably going to go back into prison soon. He wants to get revenge for the people that caused him to go into prison in the first place. So yes, we've heard this story before, but we haven't heard this story with a deaf actor that looks like he's about to kill someone. So I think it's revolutionary in that sense.
Yes.
Like actors, we need all the deaf actors, we need them all to play psychopaths. Although this guy is not a psychopath, he's just a person that's been warned. So one of the interesting things is that he also experiences access issues, of course, because he's deaf in prison. It's not the best place to be. His literary skills are not that great, so he actually acknowledges that he doesn't know how to read and write, that he actually learned how to read and write in prison, and he's still learning those skills. So one of the scenes is that he interacts with his daughter, who's played by a hearing person, and he shows the daughter a workbook that he had while he was in prison, and it looks like he's just working on his printing. So it's quite an acknowledgement to show that deaf people have challenges with literacy, and not all of them do, but it's a nice statement to make here. And what I have
Michael,
to say is,
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, continue. Yeah.
No, sorry, I just wanted to say that Rose Aileen Ellis, who was the lip reader in the last show, is doing a great job in this show. She's going to have a year. She plays the daughter of the murdered man that Matthew Gurney's character is in prison for. So she's angry, she wants to get revenge too. So I think we're going to have them go head to head in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds awesome.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. Now, but the thing is really interesting, Michael, and when you watch this, what do you feel about the research? I mean, we talk about the problems, especially the idea of, and I, not that I was ever thinking, gee, one day I could end up in jail, but I must admit, I did always wonder, I wonder what they do for people, whether a person's in a wheelchair, whether a person is deaf or hard of hearing or blind. What does our government, what are the rules, what is are you stuck somewhere by yourself, and or are you in main population, things like that. You do wonder, or is it that whole, well, you know, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime, and if there is obviously less, I mean, health wise, even, are people really, if they have diabetes or something, how looked after are people? We don't really ever get a lot of discussion about that. I'm sure there are people out there that have those answers, but when you watch a show like this, did you feel, as a person in the community, that you felt they tackled some of these things that maybe you might have wondered about or thought, gee, I never thought about that, not being inside ever?
Mm-hmm. I've worked as a legal counsel to human rights in Canada.
Yes.
So
yes.
You have a bit of knowledge, but Canada is different than the UK. I'm not sure what the situation is in the UK, but I think we can safely assume that it's difficult to be disabled and to be in prison, because you're not only dealing with the prison administration, you're dealing with other inmates. And I think we see that in the show Reunion, because Matthew Gurney's character Daniel is about to be stabbed. So so as a deaf person, you're always looking around while you're trying to see if someone's coming from behind you. And also, if you know anything about prison, you're not supposed to make eye contact. So as a deaf person, you're really struggling what to look at, right? And I can't even imagine what a blind person would be going through, but I'm sure one day I will get a TV show about that, hopefully. I think it's interesting thinking about how the criminal underworld will actually try and accommodate some of the members that have disabilities. So, for example, I loved Fargo Season 1, which has a deaf hitman, and he has his own interpreter. So it's always nice to see, even if it might not be the reality, it's nice to see, people with disabilities playing different parts.
Yeah, and giving different perspective of them. Michael, we're out of time, but I want to leave you a moment because this is your last visit with us on the show before the show concludes.
Oh my gosh!
No.
Look at that acting.
Trying to get cast for the season 2 of these shows. Anyway, it was a pleasure and a privilege to work with AMI since 2018 as entertainment correspondent. And, I think we've done a lot of good things together. We've pushed the needle on accessibility. We still have a lot more to do. So, I'm just holding up something that I got from the video store. I will never stop going to the video store, wherever the video store is, even if it happens to be in your mom's basement. Don't stop renting movies. Don't stop going to the cinema. That's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Michael. I love that. It was great having you on all those years. That was Michael McNeely, our very own film critic, and we've had a wonderful, empowering conversations with him. And Kelly and Company is so lucky to have you on, Michael. Thank you.
Absolutely. Alex Smyth is the host of Parasport Nation on AMI Audio. You can hear it following our show on Tuesdays and Fridays. He joins us now to talk about and explain a parasport for us, as he usually does twice a month here on the show. Alex, welcome back. And what are we covering today?
Yeah, thank you very much, Kelly and Nisreen, for having me back. So I want to talk about wheelchair fencing. This is a sport that I did not know a ton about on the para side. I actually did do a bit of fencing in my earlier years, but this is also to tease up Friday's episode because we have Ryan Russell, who is a para fencer on the show. So I wanted to tee up the audience to give them a bit of perspective of what the sport is. So on the base level, there are 3 different types of swords that you use in fencing. This is the same for the stand-up sport to the wheelchair/para sport. There is the foil, the epee, and the saber. When it comes to parasport, there is just the main difference is where you can strike the sword on the body. The foil has to be in the torso. The saber has to be above a certain line on the body, anywhere basically from like waist up, and then epee is a bit more freeform. There's more opportunity to strike on the body, waist up as well, but there's a bit more flexibility in that. The unique thing about the wheelchair sport is you are locked in place in your wheelchair. Your wheelchair is stationary. There's no movement from the lower body as a result. So as Ryan Russell's coach describes it, it's like a knife fight in a phone booth, which is, I think, a very apt descriptor for the sport. You're seeing a lot of movement in the upper body, the waist below locked in place. You can't really go anywhere. You can just kind of dive and dodge the blades coming in. There are blankets that are worn, especially for the epee sports. Those are to prevent false hits on things like the chair or the leg. But if and you're responsible as a competitor on the status of your skirt. If it moves, if the chair gets exposed and someone hits out with the blade after it's been set, that's still a point for them. And so you're trying to achieve 15 points total to win the match, and it goes back and forth each round. They reset, and a point is awarded each time. And the distance, this is a unique thing as well. The distance is set by whoever has the shortest reach to make sure that they actually have the ability to touch the opponent. So if you have a shorter reach, it can be an advantage or a disadvantage because you have to extend fully to be able to reach them. Whereas an opponent who maybe has a longer reach, they can attack easier. But if it's such a disparity, maybe that becomes a disadvantage. You can't quite extend. You have to move your arm into different positions.
Is there anything, Alex, that when you look at it, is the no-no, right? That, like, I mean, I think about it, oh gosh, that'd be so cool. And the first time I ever saw it was in Montreal, and I had been there to do some work and went over and, hey, what's this? And really enjoyed watching these guys work in their little tight, confines as they were competing. What are the rule breakers that either, totally like make you lose points? How does that work?
So this is really interesting. When it comes to fencing, this is something overall as part of the culture. It's very much built on discipline and respect. So there have been points. I'm not sure in the wheelchair side of things, but I'm very confident that it would translate. That after a point is awarded or a match is won, if you are over exuberant in your celebration, you're ripping your mask off, you're cheering, you're doing all these things, and it's deemed as being unsportsmanlike, you can have points deducted from you. In certain instances, you can be disqualified because of it. So it's very much like the martial arts where it's respect. You bow, you kind of acknowledge your opponent, you acknowledge the refs and the kind of the judges. So there is the formalities there. So that is really something that is important. Same thing is like making sure when everyone is set and you have the go to attack. That is the other aspect. Don't do it before the whistle is blown, or it may be really flagrant. It may result in point deduction, things like that. But when the match is on, there's a lot of flexibility to go about your strategy. Maybe you go on the attack first, maybe you go on the defense first. But the key aspect is one person is always on the attack, one person is on the defense. So even if you are both attacking, only one person is going to get the point, because whoever decided to do that first, who made the attack action first, lowered the blade lower, quicker, you have advantage. The other person has to block it. So that is another key aspect to it.
Fantastic. Ryan on the show with you guys Friday. Alex Smyth up next here as we conclude our portion of the program. Stick around for Parasport Nation as it is here on the second half of the Kelly and Company Hour on Tuesdays and Friday. So check it out, also available on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube. On the next show, when Niz and I return, Jenny Bovart has been an athlete for most of her adult life, and it has been an adventurous run. She tells us how sport has helped her and how she's learned to adapt to sport and what has and hasn't worked for her over the years. That on the next edition of Kelly and Company. Fedora's off to you. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly and Company. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.